The tech industry is not in its best shape right now. You have layoffs, you have hiring freezes, and overall fear regarding the job market in general. So it's becoming more difficult for people to get their first software job compared to years in the past, whether they have a degree or not. I see the frustration from a lot of people that one day hope to get their first job, to start working towards getting a higher salaries, and a part of me can really relate to this. So I started to think back about when I first started trying to get into the software field back in 2015, and just how difficult it was for me to get my first job, even in a time to where it was supposedly a good job market. So in this video, I want to explain that part of my career, the challenges that I faced during that time, and my advice and encouragement for anyone that made a decision that they want to become a software engineer. So I graduated from school in one of the worst times for our economy. When I initially went to college, I had big dreams of graduating with a degree, walking directly into a high-paying job, and being set for life. And I chose marketing as my major, but there was really no strategy behind it. Because when I graduated, I started to see just how difficult it was for me to get a job. So I would apply non-stop to all kind of marketing jobs, all kind of business jobs, but then I started to run out of time. I had school loans, I had debt, and I had bills that I had to pay, so I had to get some type of job at some point. So that shiny new marketing degree that I had got me a job as a management trainee at a pest control company. So instead of working on marketing campaigns and commercials like I had dreamed, I was in somebody's house chasing rats and roaches. So long story short, that job did not last long for me, and that put me into one of the lowest points I had in my life, because I felt like I spent so much time in school, I had worked so hard for a degree, and it didn't really help me at all. I was confused about my life. I didn't know what I wanted to dedicate myself to and how I was going to support myself or a future family with the money that I had, because I didn't have much money. So when I got introduced to the tech field, I realized that I didn't necessarily need a computer science degree to get a good job, and that's what attracted me the most. So once I made the decision that I was going to learn how to code, I put 100% of my focus on getting my first software job as quickly as I could. So I fell in love with JavaScript and other front-end languages, and I studied JavaScript for around 11 months. Every single day. I initially told myself that I was going to study for at least a year before I started applying for jobs, but I started to get impatient at around that 11-month mark, and I wanted to just see what would happen if I started to apply for some software jobs, and hopefully if I was to even get an interview to see exactly what I was getting myself into. But once I started to apply for jobs, I learned my first hard lesson about getting my first software job, which is it takes way more persistence than you think. Too many people underestimate the amount of effort and sometimes the amount of time that it takes to get your first software job. You see stories all the time about someone that applied a few times and they got a great job, and it does happen, but honestly that's really not the norm. And to be honest, I don't even remember how many jobs I applied to before I even got an invitation for a phone screen. So I kept applying, and eventually I started to get some phone screens, and then I would do bad at the phone screens and they wouldn't invite me for the next step. So I kept applying some more, and I got more phone screens, and I started to improve at the phone screens, and then I would get invited for the next step in the interview process. And I kept applying some more, interviewing some more. I would get past the phone screen, I would start to get a little bit better at the technical interview, but they wouldn't invite me for any following technical interviews or any kind of job offers. So by going through this process and seeing a gradual improvement in my interviewing abilities, I started to realize that the number 2 problem that I had was I just wasn't employable yet. Once I finished the free code camps and the boot camps and the courses online and everything, I had the idea that, hey, I'm ready to work. I can code, somebody should hire me. Now it's true that I did learn how to code, I did build some projects, but that is not the same as being employable by a company and working in a development team. So there's a lot more that comes into the job outside of just coding, which is why I always say that just coding isn't enough. So if you have an average developer that can communicate very well, that can think about problems and solutions from a scalable point of view, that know how to work within a team, compared to an amazing developer that knows how to code well, but they don't communicate well, they don't know how to work within a team, they have a problem with thinking about solutions and problems from a bigger and scalable view, and they only think about the code that they're working on. These companies 9 times out of 10 are going to hire the average developer, because a lot of companies know that anyone can learn a technical ability to things, especially if you have a team that has some skilled developers that can take you under their wing and things like that. You'll pick up some skills pretty fast. But as far as the communication, the way you think about problems and solutions, is very hard to teach someone that, and they would rather invest in someone that they can teach the technical ability and they have everything else in place, versus someone that has all the technical ability but they can't understand concepts and problems from a bigger point of view outside of just the code that they're working on. And unfortunately, it took me a long time to really understand that was what I was missing during my interview processes. So I had to think and market myself as more than just someone that was just at home coding projects that was just beneficial to them or something that they could brag about for their interview. So when you have these interviews and you have these phone screens, it's important to try to impress as far as your technical ability, but the most important thing is you want to impress and you want to make them see you as a potential part of the team. If you can do that, then your processes and your interviews will start to improve a lot faster. Another thing that I wish I understood understood is to look outside of just the typical web developer and software developer type of jobs. So what do I mean by this? I started out in my career as a software developer, but I ended up into more of a niche style development, and I do development within the ServiceNow platform. So what's ServiceNow? So ServiceNow is a cloud-based platform that a lot of companies use for their IT service management, or ITSM. You also have HR management, legal. I mean, there are a lot of products that are available within this platform. So the platform is designed to help you automate different processes and workflows within each company. But the thing about ServiceNow is that it's a massive platform that allows a lot of customization from coding JavaScript, HTML, and CSS. You have different third-party integrations that you can code and set up, REST APIs, custom apps. I mean, there's so many different things you can do. And I'm using the same languages that first got me into this career. And this is the same for people that do development within Salesforce and other similar products. So I say this to give you an idea of what it means to be in a niche type of development versus the same pool as everybody else that's applying to all these software developer jobs. Because throughout all the tech layoffs and the hiring freezes around this past year or so, I really didn't see much change in the amount of interest that I was receiving from companies. And if I was to apply just to try to get a feel of how the market was, I really didn't see much difference from this year and last year compared to years in the past. And this is not because I'm the most amazing developer. This is not because I'm just the master of masters at JavaScript. It really just comes down to supply and demand. So if you're having trouble getting responses for your type of development that you've typically been applying for, try to search a little bit wider and see if there are other things that you can use your skills that you've been learning to get another type of developer position that may interest you even more. Because everything that you're learning, just like everything that I learned, a lot of these skills are transferable. Once you have the mindset and you know how to think about problems and solutions from a scalable point of view, then you can use those same skills in many different ways, no matter what you're coding. And probably one of the most important things is to market yourself as someone that wants to get into the software field. Before I started applying for any jobs, I changed my resume to include as many keywords as possible for the jobs that I was applying for. If I'm applying for a JavaScript job and I only have JavaScript in my resume one time, I don't really stand a chance at getting any kind of interest from a recruiter. So I listed everything that I did in boot camps and every project that I had built, and I listed every single language that I used on my resume because I wanted them to see me as someone that was moving out of account management, out of pest control, and was moving into software development. So when it comes to your resume, it's important to have these keywords because these recruiters are not reading every single resume one by one. They get many applications all the time, and it just doesn't make sense for them to read line by line every single application. So they have pretty much two different methods that they use to scan and see if somebody has a potential to be employed with their company. The first is that they use applicant tracking systems, and these are systems to where they can pretty much upload a bunch of resumes and the system will scan the resume for whatever keywords that this recruiter is looking for. So if you don't have these keywords, you probably won't be picked to even get a phone screen. The second is they skim resumes. So if they know that the company needs someone that's good at HTML and React or something, they're gonna scan these resumes as quickly as possible to see how many times React shows up, how many times HTML shows up, and if it does show up a few times within the resume, then they'll start to read and start to get more details about what you did. So even if you only have one project, put it on your resume and try to put as many details as you can as far as line by line of what you did and what languages you use. And every time you build another project or every time you complete another course or boot camp or something, add it to your resume. You don't have anything to be embarrassed of. There's no shame in adding these things to your resume because it's making it clear of what your goal is and where you're trying to head in your career. So even through all of this, even if you do everything right, even if you have the best resume, even if you have worked as far as being employable, even if you've worked at your interviewing skills, it still may take some time to get your first job because we don't control everything. And the only thing that you can really do from there is that if you have committed yourself to getting this job, to getting into this career, you simply just can't give up. So that's what I have for you in this video. If you like the video, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this.